Hey, Emma.
Yes, Madelyn.
What do you call the feeling you get when a game you really like isn't available to play on a system that you own anymore?
I don't know. What do you call it?
Rage of Mythology! Hello, and welcome to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm one of your hosts, Madelyn.
I'm your other host, Emma.
And we're here, as usual, to talk to you about games, old, new, and invented, and our thoughts about those games, or things that are even tangentially related to those games.
Yeah. Is Age of Mythology not on Steam? I guess it doesn't play on Mac, though.
It doesn't have a Steam version for Mac.
Yeah. Well, that's not surprising. Not a lot of games do.
I've seriously considered downloading some kind of emulator so I can play it, though.
You could probably do that.
But right now, at this point in my life, that's a little more trouble than it's worth.
It's not that hard, actually, to download an emulator.
It seems very intimidating and like something that could ruin my computer if I made a mistake.
I don't know.
I realize that it probably isn't, but just the
No.
word emulator gets me scared.
All it means is that it emulates something.
It's a scary word.
Okay.
So this week, as you may have guessed, we're talking about the all-time classic, one of my definite top 5 games of all time, Age of Mythology. And we're also talking about the 2016 game, Inside.
Mm-hmm.
It occurred to me that at the change of the year, we might have to update our games list. Like, what happens to the games that fall out of the category over time?
I kind of periodically update it anyway.
So you're just
Not
accusing me of not
a
paying
lot,
attention.
But if things feel like it's like, oh man, like this came out in like 2015, I'll be like, okay, let's switch something. If there's a game that like I feel like is different from the other games we have on our list, and I want to put on, and there's one that's like from 2015 that's been on there since the beginning, sometimes I switch it.
So what you're telling me is that you perform maintenance on our website, and I don't notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that seems fine.
Okay.
So yeah, should we just go ahead and jump into Age of Mythology?
Sure.
Okay, Age of Mythology is the best. Great, moving on.
Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Talk This.
I don't know, what is it that, well, maybe you don't agree. Do you like Age of Mythology as much as I like it?
I like it more than Civilization. Those are like the two computer games, excluding, like Barbie Team Gymnastics, which is still in our hat, but that I remember playing on like the PC ever. But I probably didn't like it as much as you do still.
So, for those viewers who haven't been introduced to this marvel of the gaming world, Age of Mythology is a spin-off of the popular Age of Empires series, which I never really played. We had like a DS one, Age of Empires.
Yeah, we never played that.
Well, these games are not as good on the DS. Civilization is not as good on the DS. Age of Empires is not as good on the DS. Like, I understand why you do it, but you just get this really simplified version of the game that's very hard to play. So I don't generally recommend that for your introduction. Yeah. But basically, the story mode, you play as, well, you don't really play as, but you follow the story of Arkantos, who lives on Atlantis, sort of during the time of Greek mythology, during those times, whenever those times are, whatever. And Atlantis gets attacked by, demon? Who attacks Atlantis? Krakens, that's what it is. The Krakens attack Atlantis. And so Arkantos sails away to try to rally the troops to save Atlantis, right? But
I thought he just got called away to Troy.
Oh, you're right. I'm making up a whole new story. You're right. He has
They
to
do get attacked by krakens. That's like
he
the
has to
intro
defend
level.
Atlantis, but then he also gets called away to help his Greek friends fight the Trojan War. And over the course of the game, well, you meet all of these like famous heroes, right? It's like Ajax and Odysseus and Agamemnon, and all those guys are your pals, and fight with you. And basically, like, you go on this whole journey through the underworld, through all this stuff, and you end up in Egypt, and you end up in the Norselands, and there's all this fun mythology and this awesome story mode. And the way the actual game works is like, so you have these like town centers where you can build troops, and it's a real-time game. It's not a turn-based game. So you build troops and you build farms and workers, and like you amass an army and like complete your mission, defeat your enemies. Or sometimes you're pigs.
Yeah. Kill a lot of pigs.
I guess, no, you kill pigs, but sometimes you, in one level in particular, you are a pig.
Get turned into pigs.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, I remember now.
I really feel like this game has one of the more satisfying... Like, usually with these sorts of strategy-based games, they're really meant for you to do the free play, right? Or play against your friends, or play on the online multiplayer, or whatever. That's really what they're best meant for. And you'll have, like, a story mode that gets, like, slapped in there. Just because you have to have one. But I feel like Age of Mythology actually has a successful, interesting story mode.
Yeah, for sure. Though we did play a lot of the free play also. Or at least I did.
The free play is also fun. I'm not saying the free play isn't fun. I'm just saying that the fact that it actually has a story mode with any kind of substance and that's interesting to play is a rarity among this genre.
Well, I mean, it's actually a really long story mode, isn't it? Mm-hmm. That's what I remember.
Yeah, because you go back and replay it and you, like, get through... God, I've played the one where you take the battle... Like, take the Troy, right? Where you, like, build the Trojan horse. I played that one, like, a bajillion times. And I've played the ones in the end of the game in, like, the Norselands, like, maybe twice. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, it takes a really long time to get there. Mm-hmm. Because you have to, like, get through everything else first.
But it's really fun, mostly, well, not mostly. There's a lot of reasons why it's really fun, but I like getting to pick the different gods that you worship and being like, what do you want to focus on? Who is the one that gives you plenty? The one where you get that little, like, resource thing that, like, is perpetually filling up your resources?
I would guess Dionysus, or...
I feel like it was Hephaestus,
I don't know
though.
You can't worship that, though, can you?
No, you worship... You pick, like, for the Greeks.
But you can't pick from all of them.
Right. You pick, like, Zeus, Poseidon, or Hades as your, like, main god.
Yeah.
And then, like, as you advance through the ages... Right? Because there's, like, the classical age and the heroic age and the mythic age. Is this ringing any bells? You, like, advance through ages by building certain types of buildings.
Oh, yeah.
And so each time you go up in age, you get to pick a new, like, mini-god to worship.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, now I remember that.
Yeah. Oh, and there's, like, you have to have people, like, worshipping at temples. Guys, this is just, like, a huge nostalgia trip for me to even be talking about this game. I have, like, I have very distinct memories of playing it as a kid. But two, I have very distinct memories on, like, a high school choir trip in, like, 10th grade of, like, sort of, like, offhandedly mentioning Age of Mythology to someone. And then, like 3 or 4 of these boys are just like, oh my god, like, Age of Mythology is the best. And just, like, talking about Age of Mythology the entire trip. And it was amazing. It was, like, it was such a bonding moment. I love when you meet people who like the same video games that you like.
Yeah,
I feel like sure. A lot of the time, at least for me, it's still a very solitary hobby. Mm-hmm. And I'm surprised when I meet people who have even heard of games that I have played.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because then, you know, we don't play a lot of Overwatch, which is not saying you're bad if you play a lot of Overwatch. It just, like, that's, like, if you meet someone who plays games, you know, like, that's the sort of thing they mean when they play games. Mm-hmm. And maybe they've played some other games, but probably not some of the ones that we really like. So at least that's been my experience in my games classes.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me when I meet someone who's played Fallout
Yeah.
or Halo or Pokemon.
Yeah.
But it does surprise me when I meet someone who's played a game that felt like even though Age of Mythology is like a best-selling game, right? And a lot of the games that I hold very dear are huge bestseller classic games, still surprise me when I meet people that have any kind of sentimental attachment to them the same way that I do.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't feel the same way about books and movies, really.
I guess not. I don't know if I really have. I guess I do. Trying to think if I really have a lot of books and movies I have like a childhood attachment to.
I guess that's true.
I guess like Mulan for you, but I'm sure you meet a lot of people.
Well, plenty.
That like
I get
Mulan.
like grumpy when I meet people who like Mulan. It's like, do you like Mulan as much as I like Mulan? Like I get territorial about it.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, like like our childhood movies were mostly like Disney,
Right, which
and
everyone.
stuff. Yeah, and everybody watches that. Everybody has some sort of connection to Disney. And I don't know if we have. At least I can't think of like a childhood book. Maybe we just read too many.
I mean, I think like it was cool to see the little girls reading Magic Tree House.
I don't remember reading Magic Tree House at all.
Okay, well, okay, bye.
Oh, I guess the Mythomania books.
Oh, true.
We were just a very Greek mythology obsessed
I'm just very sentimentally
family.
attached to Greek mythology.
We also read a lot of the Dorlius's Big Yellow Book of Greek myths.
I still don't know what that name is.
Dorlius or something. Something like that.
There's a D and an apostrophe and something starting with an A and ending with an S.
But also, I highly recommend the Mythomania books. They're told from Hades' perspective. The Cupid one is definitely in the top tier of them.
They're really funny, as I recall.
Yeah.
They're a good companion piece as you read. I'm sorry, not as you read, as you play Age of Mythology.
But Age of Mythology is also kind of like an outlier. I don't think I've ever played a real-time strategy game that I've liked besides Age of Mythology.
Team Buddies.
I don't have very vivid memories of Team Buddies.
Oh, Team Buddies is another Rage of Mythology game for me. That should be a TV trope. Rage of Mythology.
That sounds good.
Yeah, it does. Age of Mythology, although I would never use these, but apparently also has a lot of really good cheats. Like, you can have, like, a flying bear.
What? Use that cheat. What are you
What?
talking about? Use that cheat.
used-
Get yourself a flying bear.
There's, like, crazy stuff you can do. I remember, because I remember talking about this on, like, the elementary school bus stop. This is so weird. I have so many, like, little, like, Age of Mythology anecdotes. But I remember this distinctly. So, it's interesting.
Like,
It's
don't
interesting.
cheat to, like, get rid of any of the mechanics. But if you can cheat to get a flying bear,
Well, it was like a flying bear of
that
death,
gets my
though.
stamp
Like,
of approval.
there are pictures of it online, and I'll post them this week probably. Of like, it's like a flying bear that like shoots lasers from its eyes or something.
Even
that's like
better.
that. That's cheating, though.
You don't have to use it. Just have it exist.
Fair enough.
Bear enough.
There we go. There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Emma will be taking over the top
thank
of
you.
show jokes from
thank
now
you.
on.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to hear my backup joke?
Sure.
What's the opposite of outside?
What?
Inside.
That was your backup joke? That's
Yeah.
not a joke. I thought
Exactly.
you were going to go somewhere with that.
Exactly.
Like, you're setting up my expectations for inside, and then you're going to go elsewhere. But no.
What's
Just
the
for telling
opposite of
me some
outside?
facts.
Age of Mythology.
But I guess there's really just, like... I mean, maybe there are, and I'm just not aware of them. But I don't think there are a ton of... Like, strategy games is such a niche genre to begin with. And then real-time strategy games is, like, a niche genre.
I really like strategy games, though.
What other strategy games do you like?
Well, Civilization.
Yeah, well, yeah. But that's turn-based, right? I mean, it's mostly
Yeah, it's not
turn-based.
real time. It's
Yeah.
turn-based.
And Fire Emblem is turn-based. You know?
But see,
So,
these are all games that I really like, and it upsets me that this genre isn't more mainstream. Not that, I mean, these 3 game series are obviously very popular, but I still wish there were more. I wish they would. I want an Age of Mythology remake. I don't want their BS Chinese expansion pack. It's not BS because it's Chinese. I'm sorry, that came out wrong. But like they did like a dumb expansion pack a few years ago. It's like apparently not very good and like clearly just like a cash grab. And you can buy it on Steam.
Well, does the company exist anymore, or was it bought by something?
I really thought it was Fire Access, but I might be wrong. It was probably bought by something.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know. There are plenty of reasons for it to not exist anymore. I would just like it to exist so I could give it my time.
Yeah, give it all your time.
You know?
We just sent Madelyn the PlayStation 3.
The PlayStation
home,
3
so.
got here, goodness. Today is Sunday, wink wink. So the PS3 got here like 3 or 4 days ago. Mm-hmm. Josh was very excited.
That's good.
He's already been playing Katamari. That was the thing he was most excited about.
Of course.
So
got some deep. I want to hear his deep philosophical thinking on Katamari Damacy.
I'll ask him to do a guest blog.
Okay.
Yeah. I have that's like the Talk This Life update of the day. I have a video game system again. That's not my PC. I don't have a PC. It's not my Mac.
Yeah.
In my house, so
her brand new PS3 is so fancy.
It's not brand new. But it works. It's on our teeny TV, and it works.
4-year-old PS3, so fancy.
Did you say 4 year? It's definitely more than 4 years old.
Really?
Isn't it?
I don't know, actually.
I feel like we got it before I went to school.
That's a question for another time.
Yeah,
but
indeed.
I just thought of it because you're saying like give your time to, so I was like, yeah, but she's got a system now.
I do have a system. I wish it had Age of Mythology on it. Age of Mythology is a game that I wish I could share with people that I know and love, but it's difficult too.
Yeah.
They even the version, I think that they do have a version on Steam, but even that they say it's like they've somehow made the graphics worse. Which,
that's
like,
interesting.
Okay, the graphics were good for the time.
Yeah.
But they're a little blocky. If you really, compare them to today's stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know how importing it into more, technologically advanced stuff, you would somehow make the graphics worse.
Well, maybe they made it small, like the file smaller. Like they wanted it to not take up as much room on like your hard drive or something, and so they sacrificed like the graphical quality. I
don't know, dude, but I inevitably one of these days I will drop down the money, or frankly, I mean, I have the disc. I just need to get a CD drive.
Yeah.
So I'll see which one is cheaper.
Yep.
I don't know. I could talk about Age of Mythology all day. The pig level. The pig level is so classic.
So stupid.
There's one level where Circe from Greek mythology turns you into pigs, and you have to like round up all your men who are pigs and turn yourself into not pigs. And it's great. Oh, and you have all the god powers. I forgot about like the god powers too.
Oh yeah.
Like you can like make it like rain meteors and stuff.
Yeah.
Like the one where you're sneaking through Troy. There's so many great little things about this game. But maybe I should move on.
Yeah. God, we can't talk about Age of Mythology forever.
Well, then what's the opposite of outside?
Oh gosh, what is it?
Inside!
Ah.
Okay, do you want to give the rundown on Inside?
Sure. So Inside is 2016's indie darling from Playdead, which also made Limbo, which Inside is like the spiritual successor of, in the sense that they're pretty similar in feel. So it's it's not 2D, but it's
3D.
like,
Limbo is 2D.
Yeah. Is it on a 2D plane though, or do you move around?
It's weird. They have like a weird graphical system.
Yeah, I'm not fully sure. But it's, you know, like a sort of like it's a sort of a side-scrolling like puzzler game, and I don't really know like what to classify these things as when I'm talking about them.
A puzzle adventure game.
Yeah. Sure. But you play as this boy, and you're in this weird factory place, and you're not really given any explanation as to what's happening. But you have to make your way through a whole bunch of like death traps, essentially. Both this game and Limbo are pretty gruesome, and it's kind of scary. So you get chased by things, or you die, you get stun tranquilizer darted, or you get squashed, or you get drowned, or whatever. And I like the assumed goal is like you're supposed to like escape the factory or whatever, and you sort of end up doing that. But
Don't
also
spoil
sort of
the
not.
ending.
That's why I'm saying that's sort of what happens. But yeah, it was up for like a lot of like Game of the Year awards, that sort of stuff. It was like the indie favorite of 2016.
I think it's so interesting that the description you gave of the game could apply to like 1,000 games. That was hyperbole, but I feel like this idea of like mysterious, kind of vaguely defined boy runs around dystopia solving puzzles is really in.
I guess so.
I just feel like even on this podcast, we've talked about like probably a half a dozen games that fit that mold.
I mean, I guess you could say The Last Guardian, but even that, like, that's nothing like this. So
I realize that I'm just saying, like, The Last Guardian is kind of like that. What was the puzzle game? You know, you're on the island and you're solving all these puzzles.
The Witness, you don't have a gender.
Okay, fine. Whatever. Vaguely defined character wanders around weird, poorly explained dystopia solving puzzles.
Sure.
I realize that they have different elements. I'm just saying this idea of this, like, kind of game that has its own mythology, you know, is really in right now.
I guess so, but I think part of the fact that they have puzzles, like, doesn't it take the fun out of a puzzle game if it gives you, like, 10 minutes of tutorial at the beginning? Like, doesn't that negate the point? So doesn't it make sense that puzzle games would sort of have that vaguely defined what's happening at the beginning, because the tutorial would sort of ruin it?
No, I absolutely understand that. I just think that, like, I've complained in recent episodes about how, like, oh, like, every game that is serious or every game that's acclaimed has to be a shooter. And I think that may have been an unfair criticism. It either has to be a shooter or it has to be you're playing as, like, a cipher solving puzzles.
Well, I think you're mixing up acclaimed and commercially successful.
Oh, perhaps, yes.
I think most of the commercially successful games are shooters. I don't know if you have to be a shooter to be critically acclaimed.
I guess I was just frustrated that a lot of these games that have received a lot of praise for their stories do lean on the shooting element.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. I'm fully ready to admit that I'm wrong.
I mean, I think that Naughty Dog is more of an exception to the rule in the terms of, like, games that are shooters. Like, there's a lot of action games, sure, but I think that stuff like Dishonored, for example, it's not just a shooter. But then I guess BioShock is a shooter. I'm trying to think of other big games from the last few years. But I mean, like, there's always the indie darling of the year. Like, 2015 was Undertale. 2016 was Inside. I'm not 100% sure what this year's will be. But, like, this year, for example, there's been a ton of critically acclaimed games that are not shooters. I mean, I guess Horizon Zero Dawn is a shooter. Kind of. But it's more of a puzzler shooter. Feel free to interrupt me, because I'm just, like, thinking out loud right here, which I'm sure is not particularly compelling.
I'm very interested in what you have to say. I just think, I don't know, it fascinates me that, particularly in the indie sphere, that we're seeing so many of these puzzlers, I feel like, sort of break out and be successful. Or at least be, critically successful. Mm-hmm. And that, yes, I absolutely agree that they're not all the same, but this, like, de-emphasis on main character.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with lack of resources. So, like, if you cannot define your main character graphically, then and get away with it, then do it, because that saves a lot of development time and cost. Not that, like, Inside isn't, like, graphically beautiful, because it certainly is in its own way. It's definitely got its own atmosphere. Although some people have criticized it for its sort of cinematic camera angles, because it sort of makes some of the puzzles difficult for them, or, like, knowing where they're going. But, yeah. I mean, technically there's also this theory that the less defined a character is, the more the player can identify with them. Like, you put yourself into them. So, like, if you're playing, like, an Uncharted game, like, you're not Nathan Drake, you're playing as Nathan Drake, right? But if you're playing Inside, you are the boy, you're not playing as the boy.
See, I don't buy into that theory, like, to its natural conclusion. Like, for example, so, I just finished up working on a workshop production of a new musical, which I won't name, because I'm about to say things about it that aren't, like, totally flattering. But, like, the show is, like, has improved greatly in rehearsal and was so much better than when I read it on the page. But the big problem right now is that the main character is, like, blank. It's, like,
I
empty.
don't mean, like, traits. I mean, like, actual visage.
Oh, okay.
So, like, in art, for example, you can get more out of a smiley face, like a emoticon, than you can out of, like, a really detailed thingamajig. Or you can see yourself more in the emoticon than you can in the portrait.
Gotcha. I think that's so interesting, though, given that, you know, most of what people remember about video games, most of what non-gamers get, is, like, Mario, Pikachu, Nathan Drake. You know, these, like, big franchises that are built around a character. Mm-hmm. And that we're, at least in these, you know, the Oscar bait of games, right? We're, like, pointedly moving away from that.
Moving away from centering it around a character?
Yeah, or even around, like, recognizable characters at all. I have mixed feelings about it.
Well, I read an interesting article on Vice today that was, like, sort of like the death of the big budget single-player game. Because the EA was... I think it was EA. One of the people under them was working on this big single-player Star Wars game. Like, you know, Star Wars in the vein of Uncharted or whatever. And it basically got canceled. Like, it wasn't, like, officially canceled, but it basically got canceled. Because, like, stuff like that is way too much of a risk nowadays, because everybody wants some sort of multiplayer, some sort of open world, or some sort of, like, you know, make their own narrative as opposed to, you know, whatever.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we don't like video games that are sort of as narratively rigid?
I think because we just want to, people want to get, or want to perceive like a bang for their buck, so they can buy it and come back to it again and again. That way, as opposed to stuff where you might not be able to come back to it again and again. I mean, I don't think it's necessarily bad that we're moving away from narrative rigid games.
No, I didn't say that.
What?
I didn't say that. I didn't mean it that way.
Oh, I wasn't saying you did. I was just thinking out loud. But I also think, like, there's still a place for them. Because I think, especially with The Last of Us, Naughty Dog, in their narrative, used, like, your lack of interaction in an interesting way to make a point about some of the parts of the story. So, like, video games can still be a good medium for very linear stories. But, you know, having some measure of letting the player have their own quote-unquote meta-narrative is good as well.
I just wonder, I think that something that is interesting about video games, and this is sort of a games for change tangent, but it's something that isn't necessarily, I feel like, talked about a lot or used a lot in mainstream or even decently big name indie stuff, is like, so we talk a lot about how you play video games and you sort of identify with your character. And now we've been talking about how, okay, that's a lot easier to do when you don't see your character. You can pretty much just imagine it's you. Right?
Yeah.
But I feel like video games also potentially have a really big power to be like, okay, like, you're going to play as, you know, someone who's not you. And come to empathize with them, despite the fact that you're playing as someone who isn't anything like you. And I was just seeing, like, all these games where we're saying, like, oh, okay, like, we're not going to see the protagonist. We're not going to know anything about the protagonist. Like, we're just going to sort of let it be you. I feel like, well, there's certainly a place for those games. For me, as someone who tells stories in other mediums, I sort of wonder at the motivation behind it for some of these games. Whether it's a wasted opportunity.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about for all of these games, but for something like Inside, it's also important to bear in mind that it's kind of a horror experience, right? Or is it's at least supposed to creep you out. And I find with horror movies and horror games, especially, the more they try to explain to you what's happening, the less kind of scary it gets, in a lot of ways. So, like, stuff like Inside, the creep factor goes up by, like, 11 by the fact that you're not entirely sure what these things are or why you're hiding from them or what they want to do to you. You know?
I would agree with that, and I think that Inside is probably a game where the strategy, you know, is potentially a good one. I just feel like, I don't know, maybe it's just the games that we've happened to be pulling from the hat lately, but I feel like we've pulled a lot of these sorts of games recently.
What have we pulled recently?
I don't even remember, dude.
We did Prey last week.
I feel like Prey feels that way to me.
Then we did Mass Effect. And then we did The Last Guardian before that.
That must be it. I don't know. For whatever reason, I'm feeling a little bit of fatigue of these empty protagonist games. Or maybe I'm just feeling fatigue of these, like, open world, solve the puzzle your own way. I just want someone to tell me what to do.
Well, that's not exactly what Inside is.
Yeah, I know it's
The
not.
Witness.
I just feel like all of these games we've been doing...
Or The Last Guardian.
I know. I feel like all these games we've been doing recently have had, like, enough overlap that they're starting to blend together in my mind. Which is probably more an issue with me than anything else. But I just want a game...
I'm trying to see where the overlap is happening. Not 100% sure.
I just want a game that's going to tell me what to do.
But see, a lot of gamers are really annoyed. Like, it's really hard to balance it now because, like, of course you want your game to reach new gamers, but gamers who've been playing since, like, the PS1 know how to use a PlayStation controller by now.
No,
like,
I don't
they don't
even
want to walk through a tutorial of a game that uses, like, the same control scheme as every other game. So it's, like, hard to balance, like, letting them learn themselves and helping people along and telling them what to do.
I didn't mean that I want a game that'll tell me what to do, as in, like, I want a game that's going to give me a tutorial. I just want a game that is, like, going to say, like, hey, I have a narrative for you. I've got it. You don't have to figure it out. Here's the narrative.
Well, in that case, maybe you should go watch a movie.
Oh, shut up. Fine.
I don't mean
never
that,
play
like,
a game again.
disparagingly. I don't mean that disparagingly. I'm just saying, like, maybe if that's what you feel like, maybe games recently aren't, or even before isn't the place to find it.
I don't think that's true. I think there are plenty of games that we like, that we love, that have basically set up narratives. I love Age of Mythology.
Yeah, but you get to there's still room for you to play that your own way.
No, I mean, that's fair. I don't mean, like, I want the game to dictate my every move, but, like, I just want a game that I feel like knows the story that it's telling.
Okay, we shouldn't get into this argument because I don't have the energy to sound articulate about stuff like this. So we should move on.
Yeah, we'll move it to although I don't want to move it to a side quest either. I guess I'll discuss this at the end of the episode, but I've been feeling a little bit frustrated with our side quest format.
Okay.
But we'll discuss at the end of the episode.
Right.
A mashup of Age of Mythology and Inside. I literally don't know how to do this.
The gods have trapped you.
Oh, that's a good one.
In the depths of the underworld. And you have to try to escape their traps and make it out alive. But at the end, you don't. 'Cause, yeah.
I don't feel like that took enough from Age of Mythology's gameplay.
You have little minions that you can send off to, like, do things for you. But it takes a certain amount of time for them to do it.
That could work. I feel like it's got to be like you have to escape the underground. Like you're like building an underground civilization, but the ultimate goal is like not civil, but like you're building an underground settlement. But the ultimate goal is to get out.
A resistance camp.
Yeah, you're gonna go fight. You're gonna go kill the gods.
I didn't mean that. I just meant like if you were captured and put in the underworld, you wouldn't be building a civilization. You'd be building a camp.
That's true, but if the gods put you in the underworld, who are you resisting?
Yeah, but you can resist without killing people.
That's fair. I'm sorry. And it's a shooter.
No, I'm just saying escape is also a form of resistance, I think, in that situation.
Yeah, and it hasn't...
I mean, you could kill the gods, but then you're getting into God of War.
Oh, it's true. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Do you kill a god in Age of Mythology? Is that like the last level? Or Titans?
Titans. You kill Titans.
You kill Titans.
But you don't kill the gods. Although, spoiler alert for like this ancient game now. Like Poseidon has like stabbed you in the back.
Yeah, that's true. Poseidon is not your bro.
Nah, dude. He is not your bro. He is not gnarly or
not
radical.
Your bro.
No, I like this, like, you're building, like, a settlement in the underworld. I like that a lot. The underworld levels were always kind of fun. In Age of Mythology. They were kind of weird.
Yeah. So, like, you can send little minions off to, like, investigate future puzzles. Or give you food so that you get, make you food so that you can move.
And there's a story, but not too much of a story. Right?
Yeah, sure.
And at the end, it's revealed that the god is you, the player.
Yeah.
I won't reveal what I'm talking about there.
That's not the only interpretation of that ending, though. So.
I know, but it's an interesting one. Anyway, on that vague note, shall we commence sign-off protocol?
I guess so. This is a pretty short episode, though.
Well, I want to talk about side quests a little bit.
Okay.
So, I've been frustrated with the format.
Okay.
It's so short.
We've already shifted it once. We can shift it again.
It's so short. Our debates, like, we just get into the crux of it, and then we have to stop.
Yeah, but I mean, debates don't, like, that's sort of like how debates work. And also, so we couldn't make longer debates because unless you're willing to, like, do your files on Mondays as opposed to Sunday mornings.
Ouch.
Well, I'm just saying.
Thrown under the bus.
Well, I'm just saying it's not fair when I only have an hour to, like, to put together my rebuttal.
I know.
To your piece.
Not all of us only have school 3 days a week.
Okay, I have school 3 days a week, and now I have interviews every other day and homework.
My God.
Okay.
Fight me.
Okay, I didn't mean that as, like, a shade throwing, but I'm just
Wow,
saying I'm
it's too
not
late.
equipped.
I'm in the shade. Oh,
I'm
something
not equipped to do, like, another set of rebuttals or anything like
something
that.
I forgot to mention about Inside. Do you know how they made the sound effects, the music?
With a skull?
With a human skull.
Yeah.
What the heck?
That's an ambitious sound design.
Yeah, dude. And it's freaking weird.
I don't think sound design is appreciated enough in games.
It's not.
It's like, oh, they've got noises where there should be noises.
I want to be a game Foley artist. That'd be really fun.
Is that like what Foley artists, is that like what they call it in theater or something?
It's what they call it in film. It's the people who, make the punching sound effects and break the celery to be the breaking bone and that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, but there's just like so many like games with like swords, and it's like eventually like the sword sound effect, you're like, oh my God, ugh, it's so screechy, which of course is not quite the same as this, but sound design and on that note, like, which doesn't apply to Inside at all, but like UI design, user interface design can be also really fabulous and other times really terrible. It is not appreciated enough.
Anyway, I don't really have a solution to the side quest thing. I just wanted to put it out there and for our viewership of like, are they satisfying debates for you? Because they make me want to just continue the discussion. But I don't know in what format to do that.
So yeah, I mean, we can try something other than debates.
No, I'm not complaining. I'm sorry. I'm being very picky today.
No, it has nothing to do with being picky. Like, yeah, they're a little bit lacking. So maybe debates, like, they're supposed to be like 10 minutes, right? So maybe debates isn't like the best thing for 10 minutes.
I wonder if our debates can become like text-based.
I'm gonna say no thanks on that one.
Wow, rude, shut down.
Or at least more, we could maybe do it infrequently.
Yeah.
But that's a lot more work than speaking it.
Well, here you are getting an insight into how we make the podcast.
Yeah. And also us at our most tired.
So anyway, I'll actually start to stick the landing now. Listeners, I feel like I called them viewers earlier. Somebody catch me on that if I did that.
They might be watching the screen, watching the bar go by, just measuring it.
Listeners, if you have any ideas for new side quest formats, let us know. Because I think that, the debates, we just barely get to touch on an issue in 10 minutes with the debates. So I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll post a poll on Facebook or something maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, this here has been another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I am once again your host, Madelyn.
And I'm your host, Emma.
And, we pick games. I was about to forget.
Yeah, true. I have them right here. I even cut out the games that I had forgotten to put in there last time we picked.
Dang. Emma is on her game. Ayo.
Yeah. Do we usually start with new or old?
It doesn't matter.
Right?
I think old.
It does matter. Consistency is important. I'm gonna do old. Just tell me when.
When?
Metroid.
Woo!
Why are you shaking your head?
I shake my head when I talk. I don't know.
Okay.
Woo! What's
Do you know
our
what
new
it
game?
is?
It's a famous game. I've heard of it.
It's a series.
Yeah.
Do you know the main character's name?
Isn't it the woman?
Yeah, but they didn't know it was a woman until you beat the game.
Yeah.
And
Spoiler.
then you get to,
Oops.
if you do really well, you get to see her in her
Glory.
Bikini. So yeah. We can talk about that next week, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But here's the new games. Tell me when.
When?
Avengers Academy, baby.
Wow. Emma's been waiting for this day.
I've not been playing enough Avengers Academy recently. I've been too wiped out to do it.
Dang. That's
The
sad.
events haven't been that great recently anyway, so.
Sick burn.
Well, they did like an Inhumans event, which like, who cares, honestly.
I mean, honestly.
When the Runaways comes out on Hulu, I hope they do a Runaways event, in which case I'm definitely all over that. But Inhumans, just meh, whatever.
So those will be our games in 2 weeks.
Yep.
In the intervening 2 weeks, you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
At
That's
Talk This
it.
Podcast.
At Talk This Podcast. We got some great stuff. I've been posting Read This, although I forgot that I had scheduled it. So it's been posting, even though I'd forgotten. I highly recommend you go back and play that soup game that I wrote about, or I posted about in the middle of last week. Because I'm fascinated by it. We've got some good stuff on Instagram. A lot of good choice-based memes. Our Twitter is mostly our Instagram, but sometimes Emma puts some pithy stuff up there that's actually a good tweet.
I try.
All of this to say, you should follow us.
Yes. I just finished playing Danganronpa V3, Killing Harmony, and put the first part of my blog post up. And I'm currently working on the second part.
Spoiler, she has a lot of feelings.
I have a lot of feelings. Also, the blog posts are full of spoilers, so if you don't want to be spoiled, don't read them. But if you don't mind, or you played it, or you don't plan on playing it, go read them.
We also have a YouTube. It's empty right now, but someday we'll have stuff.
It will probably continue to be empty until I go on co-op.
It's fine. You should follow it now. You should subscribe now. That's what they call it on
it's
YouTube.
Talk This Sisters.
Maybe I'll make a vlog. I probably won't. But I like the way I said that. Vlog. Let's see. What else? You should rate and subscribe and review on iTunes. We like
or
that.
Whatever thing.
Or whatever.
that you
SoundCloud.
use.
Whatever you use.
We don't really
Google
have
Play.
it on SoundCloud. If you're not listening to this episode, if you're listening on SoundCloud, if you managed to get this on SoundCloud, I don't know how you did it. Some sort of freaky voodoo magic. But anywhere else, yeah.
We're having a really good downloads month, so keep the roll going, folks.
Yeah.
Because it makes me joyful when I go and check our statistics, and a lot of people are listening.
Me too. Tell your friends about us, because we love your friends. We think they're great people, and we want to share this time with them.
And on that note, I think that really that you and your lovely friends who will be listening to the next episode should have not only a great day, but a great week.